Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for waiting. It's good to be back with Gravity Live Sketch. We've got a special guest. We have Ali Moosavi with us today. He's one of our automotive design consultants, and just really excited to bring you all this awesome workflow we're going to be diving into. If you haven't been here before, this is Gravity Live, and so this is really or Live Sketch, I should say. This is really where we focus on workflows related to the tool and other tools as well in the whole design creative workflow. So today is going to be Gravity Sketch to Twinmotion, and Ollie's going to take us through that process. I'll let him explain a bit more, but it's nice to see you all. My name is Jaron, and I'm the creative content manager here at Gravity Sketch. And I just get to talk to amazing people like Ollie and others in our greater community. And so one thing I will say is if you have any questions throughout, at any point during the live, feel free to just pop them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. If you got questions about Twinmotion, the product, or whatever, we'll try and tackle it. So just pop it in the chat there, and I'll be keeping my eye on that, and we'll address it. But without further ado, Ollie, I'll let you give like a proper introduction of yourself.
Oh yeah, no, thanks a lot, Jaron, and happy to see everybody online today. Yeah, so I'm an automotive consultant at Gravity Sketch. I've been here about 2 years, 2 wonderful years, and work with all of the major automotive companies in North America. And today I'm going to be sharing with you how I go from Gravity Sketch to Twinmotions, the steps that are involved, and what you're going to need to do to make a successful animation and a successful rendering with Twinmotion. So I'm going to jump into the headset here in a second, and we'll go through the steps, and then I will be exporting to Twinmotion and then dressing the car up. So one sec while I get
Awesome.
this headset.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Twinmotion is a really cool tool. Like as Ollie mentioned, it's awesome for product visualization or environments. It operates off of if I'm correct, Ollie, it operates off of the Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. And basically, you get crazy visual quality out of it. And so the and I think it makes it easy to me. Like it seems like it's the Unreal Engine, but for people that just want to show stuff. Like it doesn't basically gets rid of all the like game mechanics and everything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually, fun fact, it started off as an architecture visualization tool, and it's slowly becoming a automotive visualization tool. We're seeing a
Mm,
huge trend of it being utilized in tandem with Gravity Sketch. And part of the reason why I love it so much is the fact that you can quickly make something in Gravity Sketch and then quickly render it, right? Or quickly animate it. And it keeps you in the flow state, and you're able to create really impactful work quickly. So
okay, so looks like you're in the room. I'm gonna transition the feed over,
yeah.
and I guess we're looking at a vehicle here. So Ollie, what are we looking at here?
So yeah, this is if you guys caught the Around conference this past year, this was a vehicle that Hunter Elmore, who is also an automotive design consultant, and I worked on together. I was mainly responsible for the exterior. This is a hypercar. We call it the Gravity Sketch Hypercar, just because we're trying to make Gravity Sketch into an automotive brand as well. And basically, what I'm going to be doing here is creating a clown car. If you're unfamiliar with that term, it's basically dressing up every single portion of the vehicle to have an assigned color. So I'll be grouping elements of this vehicle at certain colors so that when I do bring it into Twinmotion, I can collapse the entire vehicle by material so that the material assigning is very simple.
Awesome. And one thing I'll mention is I'm gonna pin to your view so we can actually see all the tools and menus that all the stuff you're doing from your perspective. And I'll just quickly call out that right now we're using Gravity Sketch Screen Collab, and this basically allows you to jump into a collaboration room without needing to put a headset on. So obviously, right now I'm not wearing a headset. I'm just on my desktop, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pin to Ollie's view. If any of you out there have any more questions about Screen Collab, we're happy to answer. But it's just really a great way to to do things like this. Look at what someone else is doing in VR, maybe make some notes. There's a lot of other aspects to it. We'll probably do a deep dive on Screen Collab at a future date. But I just wanted to quickly call that out because sometimes people wonder um, what we're using here because it doesn't look like the normal Gravity sketch. But with that said, Ollie, take it away.
Absolutely. Are you
Yeah, I
are you
got
in
you.
the all right, cool, awesome. So yeah, as you're seeing here, I'm just going to spin the car around. This is what it would look like in terms of a gravity sketch presentation. I'm going to start turning this into that clown car and get it ready for export. So the first thing that I'll do is go over to the color and materials. I got my paintbrush here. And the strategy here is to group elements that are going to be the same material, right? So if we're going to start with the wheels, and I honestly, I go through a spectrum of colors here. It does not matter what color you're assigning specific objects to, other than it being in a group, right? So I'm going to do like this lime green, and I'm just going to get the tires to be lime green, right? I'll start with all four tires. I'll try to keep things steady. As you see here, I have them mirrored. And then for the body, I can keep the body silver, but for the ground effects here, I will turn them maybe like this dark orange or reddish orange, anything that's going to be carbon fiber. I'm going to turn this reddish orange. And if you want, you can differentiate. Like if you want certain things to be specifically for carbon fiber, if you want them to be a different pattern or a different, twill count, if you want to get technical, you can change that, or you can change the material and be a little bit more selective. So for the headlights, I can keep those blue. For the body, I'm going to keep that silver. I also want this to be carbon fiber. I'm going to change this for the wiper here. And I'm going to try to avoid using the same color for things because it will trip up Twinmotion, or your strategy at least here. So
And so
how are we looking?
you're just having materials in mind when you're doing this, then, Ollie. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, like the glass, like this tan, it's going to be glass. It's going to be, or a tinted glass. It doesn't really, the color doesn't reflect the material
Yeah.
at all.
So it's just to help you differentiate very clearly different sections of the model. Then.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense. Um, and and so I'm assuming. Well, I guess we'll probably get into it in a minute. But when you export, um, I'm sure there's still like some settings or some things that you want to make sure that you have when you export. Um,
Yeah.
but are there ever um, are there ever times where you have like almost like so many different separate parts that you start to merge, or the colors start to look a little bit similar, or you find that's
Yeah,
probably not?
so that's a great question. So instead of using like the full saturation of the color, like I can use a variation of that green and make the wheels like a darker green, right? And
Mm,
it'll still separate them. Even
yeah,
though it's in the family of the green, it's still a different value.
right. That makes sense. Yeah,
So
because you
yeah,
at that point, I guess you have an infinite you know array of yeah, infinite number of colors that you can choose from to separate things out.
right. And then I'll use the eyedropper if I just do one wheel, and then I can apply that same color strategy over. I know it doesn't look attractive right now, but once you bring it into Twinmotion, you'll see how easy it is to um, drop the colors in. Because, for instance, like this darker green is going to be one material, and then as soon as I apply it to that front wheel, all four wheels are going to be done at the same time, right? So,
Yeah.
sorry, back and forth here.
Aaron Wolfs is asking, is there a video out already of you making this vehicle in Gravity Sketch?
So that's a great question. Basically, we presented the end-to-end workflow of this vehicle for the Around conference. So there is a vehicle. It looks like there's a duplicate here. So there is a video out of us going through that process, but not in depth, like step by step. It was more of like an overview of like first I did the sketch, and then this is how I approached the sub D, this is how I refined it, etc. So that video is actually on YouTube.
Yeah, you can definitely feel free to check that out, Aaron. And then if you're just wondering about automotive design tutorials in general, we've got a ton on our YouTube channel on how to approach automotive design. So definitely go check those out, and they'll be able to get you to the level like this where you're creating surfaces clean, surface transitions and everything. So definitely check those out.
So I'm using a strategy here because I made a lens. I'm just going to give you a little bit of the exploded view here. There's actually a lens on top of this tail light here. And then there's a lens on top of that, right? Boom. Okay. And then, yeah, in terms of that back plate, like we can make that something else. We can make like a deep purple, right? And then the cool thing is, like once, you package this back up, you're gonna have to pull it back out in Twinmotion. I could also leave it exploded and then repackage it once I go into Twinmotion.
So you pull it out just so it's easier for you to change the materials. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
See? So yeah, there's going to be some glass there, and then there's going to be a tail light as well. But yeah, I just want to make sure I differentiate every part here. So don't want to use too deep of a blue because the headlights are blue. I'm just keeping that in the back of my head, like as I go.
I gotcha. And so this is I have I guess maybe it's not doesn't matter, but does it matter if the material has a, because in Gravity Sketch we have colors, but then we also have material types. Like obviously you have like a glossy material here. Some of the parts of the car are more of a matte finish. Does that translate or matter at all when you're doing this in Twinmotion?
It doesn't matter. No.
Okay.
I haven't found that it matters, at least. I think it just matters that it's the same color.
Okay.
Right. So the material, like I can make this reflective and it won't show up as reflective. I'm also seeing some mistakes here, some lifting, but then again, this is a sketch. It's not like a finalized model here. So
can you talk a little bit too, as you're doing this, why you use Twinmotion? What's the purpose and the reason for you transitioning from a model like this that you created in Gravity Sketch and bringing it into Twinmotion?
So the reason why I like Twinmotion is that it allows me to see the vehicle in the most realistic light in the quickest way possible. Right. And as for anybody that's new watching this, you'll see how quick it is compared to other programs that have visualizations baked in. It could be Blender, it could be, like there's VRED as well. I would say that Twinmotion, in terms of how easy it is to assign materials, it's going to be as easy as VRED, but the selection or the assortment or the variety of materials in Twinmotion, the library is amazing, right? And it also has a direct link to Sketchfab and the Megascan library, which is super helpful for making it feel realistic.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe we'll look at some of that when we transition. Yeah, I've dabbled in it a bit myself, and it's the quickness is very, I think is what is really huge about it. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that want the benefits of real-time rendering, but they don't want the hassle of all of the crazy like material nodes and graphs that many programs have you go through to actually make that stuff presentable. Just kind of gets rid of all that, which is pretty nice. If anybody out there is familiar with, going through the material rendering process, but I just want to remind everybody, because I know it looks like we have some new joiners as well, that if you have any questions for us at any point, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll be keeping my eye open for those, and we'll be happy to answer them.
So we're about there, right? So you're starting to see this thing is pretty grouped up. I kept the body, still silver, but the glass is all one, the cut lines are all one, tires are all one, all of the carbon fiber elements are going to be all one. I could differentiate them a little bit, if I wanted to, if I wanted to be a little bit more specific with this being like a different twill pattern, I could do that. Same with these, even though I'm imagining this all being one mold, essentially. But yeah, like I can come in here and I'll just do it for the sake of doing it, right?
Awesome.
Also, yeah, so we should be good. Now we're ready to export. I would say this is safe to export. Another thing to keep in mind, there's two things to keep in mind, right? So we've been on the color and materials tab with the 6.2 update. We've seen the return of the flip normals wand. This is ultra important. You want to make sure before you go into the export menu, or you export it, or before Twinmotion at all, you want to go into the flip normals, and you just want to just scour the entire model, just give it a once over and look to see if there's anything inversed, right? So you guys won't see exactly what I'm looking at because I don't think ScreenCloud will show you the in-depth of like the normals. But I'm just going to go through here and just double check to see if anything's flipped the wrong way. And then if I do notice it, I will just click on it with my index trigger on my main hand, and it will flip it the right way. It looks like everything's good, which is a good sign.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the normals thing really quickly. I'm sure others out there watching have encountered this, where normals come in flipped after they export from Gravity Sketch. And I'm so glad that we added that tool back in there, because it's really great to check that before you export. I'll say that the reason why that happens, it's actually really simple. It's kind of just because of the way you make things in Gravity Sketch. It really depends on the orientation of your hands when you're first pulling out a surface in Gravity Sketch. And because the surfaces in Gravity Sketch are rendered on both sides, you don't necessarily see when, if it's reversed or not until you actually go and check it. So I just wanted to explain that for anybody watching. I know it's a really specific thing, but it's something I've encountered myself. And it's really easy to fix and reverse, but sometimes it just can be the way you actually created the surface originally. It can cause it to be inside out. But like Ollie just explained, just grab that tool, double check your model, and just go ahead and flip it.
Yeah, another key point is make sure that all of your objects are sub-D objects. Twinmotion, for whatever reason, if you bring in an asset that has mixed geometry, so if there is sub-D mixed with NURBS, sometimes it doesn't like it. It's a little finicky in that way, where sometimes you won't be able to select a non-sub-D object if you do have sub-D mixed in with NURBS. So if you ever encounter that, that's the reason why you just want to come back into Gravity Sketch and make sure that you convert it to sub-D. So
Jonathan Mitchell is asking, can you please explain normals and flipping? So maybe we should just touch on that for a couple of seconds, Ollie.
For sure.
Like what does that actually mean?
Okay, yeah. So I'll draw or with a ribbon stroke here, surface, right? So every surface has an A side and a B side, right? So typically what you're seeing when you look in the exterior is an A side. Everything on the inside of that surface is a B side, right? So there's actually no thickness to this. This is a paper thin surface, right? Until you actually add thickness, there's no body to it. It's just this face. So when you make a surface in Gravity Sketch, sometimes that surface is inversed, right? Where you're seeing the B side where the A side should be, and it'll show up invisible in programs that you export to. right? So you want to make sure that you flip it so the A side, the full body side, is facing outward, so it reads as a complete surface.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great explanation. Thanks, Ollie.
Cool. All right, so we're ready to export. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the menu. And if you guys haven't seen in 6.2, we moved the export. So the export used to be here. Now we have export presets. And you'll notice here that we have alias, VRED, Blender modeling, Rhino, Modo, and then we have a render tab, right? So the reasoning why we did this, we wanted to streamline the export process. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the render, right? Even though it says Blender, Substance, and Keyshot, those are examples, but you can always double click it to make sure the settings are what you want. So it's definitely going to be in FBX. It's going to be single-sided normals. It's going to be set to render, and the mesh quality can be default. I don't think you have to go any more than that. I've tested this out. It looks good. So just to show you what the guts of this preset are, that's what they are. And then I'm going to hit confirm, and I'm going to name it Twinmotion _ live 2. Hit OK. And then this now will show up in the cloud exports on landing pad for me to download. So while I do that, we can take some questions, but I am going to leave the headset now to fire up Twinmotion.
Awesome. Thank you, Ollie. There is one question that is related to exports. And let me transition the video feed here.
Should I jump in?
Yeah, go. Well, I don't think you'll need to, but go ahead and fire up Twinmotion. But this question is, what's the process to import into Unreal Engine versus Twinmotion? Is it any different? Like, are the settings different?
From my experience, they're the same.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense since they both operate off the same engine.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm just going to fire this up. Does everybody understand what I just went through in terms of creating that clown vehicle, making sure the normals are flipped, and then how I'm going to be going about this before I jump into Twinmotion?
Yeah, feel free to ask your questions. We can address them. If there anything was not clear, we're happy to dive into it.
Cool. I'm ready to share my screen whenever.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here you are. Right when you open up Twinmotion, I'm just going to create a new scene here. And the first thing that you'll be presented with is this space with the little sphere, landscape. It seems like you're in a desert. I'm going to go through like a really light UI explanation here, but essentially you have your scene where you can kind of control the geometry that's in the scene, the ambience tab, which is going to be heavily used here today, where you can control the time of day, the weather, the location, horizon line, HDRs in the ocean, in the camera, all that, etc. You're gonna have this tab down here for your import, your materials library, populate it if you want to populate it with foliage or people. And then you have your material library, or just your library for materials, vegetation, objects, characters, etc., and your miscellaneous items that you might want to bring into the scene, right? So let's go into how we import. But before we do that, the first thing I always do in here, I delete the starting base. Don't need it, right? I'm going to click plus here and hit open. I'm going to select this FBX that I just exported from Gravity Sketch, hit open. And you might not see the options here when you first start this, but you want to go into options and you want to collapse by material. The whole strategy around this is you created all those different colors inside the Gravity Sketch for the clown car. This is you want to be able to collapse it by material so it makes things easy, right? So Z up, you're going to hit import. Going to read the data. It's going to maybe take a minute here. Shouldn't be too heavy of a data set. Hopefully it doesn't take too long.
Ollie, there's a quick one here. Yep. Jonathan Mitchell is, I guess, referencing something that maybe you said earlier, which is we're trying to make Gravity Sketch into an automotive brand as well. And he was
Yeah,
wondering if you could expand on that.
yeah, that's honestly that's more of a personal goal. We
Hmm.
want to be able to make assets like the auto consultants make a variety of assets. We all have industry experience in different diverse backgrounds within the automotive industry, and we do a lot of side projects. This car that you're looking at right now was a side project, and we're playing with the idea of what if Gravity Sketch were to make cars? Like, what would they look like? What would the design language be? You know, and everything is crafted digitally. It's all crafted in the headset, so you might as well capitalize on that and maybe make a cool few projects out of it or a lot of projects out of it. It's just something that we, fantasize about. So there's not an
Awesome.
actual plan to make an automotive company out of Gravity Sketch, but who knows in the future, right? It would be cool.
Awesome.
So seeing the car here, it imported, and you'll notice this gumball here. You can move things up and down. The controls for that gumball are actually here up at the top. So if I actually hit rotate, I can also hit scale. And you'll notice that the axis, this is where the 000 point was in Gravity Sketch because the car wasn't exactly dead center. What you could do is you can go to the pivot edit here. And if I actually move this, I can actually reset that pivot to be somewhere closer in relation to the vehicle. And then when I come back, now I can, still grab it, right? So hit Control Z there. So what's the first thing I do, right? First thing I do is I tuck this away, go to the ambience, go to my camera, and I turn down the field of view just to make it feel a little bit more automotive. Automotive likes to be in this lower range here because it really like gives the car stance, and you want to get into a good, you know, good position where you see the car in all angles, but in a it's a low slung vehicle, right? From there, I go over to the materials tab, and this is the fun part, in my opinion, right? And I think the car is maybe sitting a little bit too low. Maybe it wants to sit up a little bit. But this is the fun part, right? This is the part where, you could change this ground. So there's a ground tab. You have nature, you have man-made. So, maybe this car wants to sit in asphalt. You click it and drag it. You'll notice that the landscape in the back also was affected by that. And it's unrealistic for sand dunes that are now asphalt. You can also delete that. If you want to go into the ambience tab, you can actually go into Horizon here. You can enable, and you can put a city in the background. There's actually a few options here. You have city, town, countryside, island, bay, waterfront. So you have all these really cool backdrops, and they're just a JPEG that kind of encapsulate the scene. So I can, rotate this to best suit the rendering. The cool thing is, like, if you do change the time of day, like they actually change that, like lights will appear on that JPEG, which is really cool.
That's
So I'll
cool.
just enable that for now. And then going back to that asphalt, as soon as you select a material or apply a material, if you have your scene and your properties open, like if you're not seeing that, you just want to make sure that the properties are open. You have the freedom to change the color. You can mess with the grunge, which makes it kind of look dirty. But most importantly, you want to make sure that the scale feels right. There's not an exact number to this, but the grain of that asphalt wants to be at a certain, fidelity, so it doesn't look too big or too small, right? So once you set the ground, you got the back plate. Let's start going in and shopping around for some materials. I think what's cool is that Twinmotion added some carb materials, right? So if I wanted to keep this thing like a light gray or white matte, like now all I have to do is click and drag it, and it will make that car silver, right? And then again, now this is open, and I can mess with this. I can mess with the flake, the orange peel. You can get really, really nitty gritty with it. And I think the cool thing about Twinmotion is that it allows you to do everything with a slider, right? Like in Blender, for instance, these would all be nodes like that you have to attach and link up. And yes, there's more control when it comes to that, but the reason why I like Twinmotion is like there's a good amount of control, and I don't need much more than that, right? Another really cool shader for the exterior could be metal. They have like these slightly worn, anything that says like slightly worn on it, you can drag and drop it. And if you look close enough, there's like these scratches, right? Like there's like this imperfection to it. And makes the car kind of feel like it's been driven, right? Instead of it being fully polished. So sometimes what I would do is like I can come in here and change the color of it. It is a little chromy, but if you actually go down to your roughness, like you can make it less chromy just by turning up your roughness just ever so slightly. And it kind of gives it this really cool character. You can change the scale of those scratches, right? So if I want big scratches, which you wouldn't want, but maybe you can minimize it, right? Just give it a little bit of texture, right? That maybe it's kind of like this cool metal, like I don't know, I like that.
That's very
So
cool.
it's all preference based, right? So you're seeing like this cool OG here. That took a while to make in Gravity Sketch, but I think I got it right. And then next, let's get into the rubber, right? Rubber is in the plastic section. Now you go to rubber. So you see now that what I said earlier, I selected that first tire, but everything else that was that color now all of a sudden took on that rubber. And you'll see that there's texture there. Like I love that about it. And I can change the scale of that, right? It looks like there's a little bit of a line here, but you know what? Tires have that, right? I'm not going to get too focused on that detail, right? Let's get into the carbon fiber, right? Now there's a carbon fiber that's in the metal actually. So they have a carbon here, and then if you actually go to plastic, they have another carbon here. Do not ask me why they have it in those two different places, but let's see what this looks like, right? So just add the carbon mesh here. You'll notice that 12 pattern is way too big, right? So let's scale that down to a realistic size. And what I love about Twinmotion here is if I zoom in, like you can see the fibers.
Yeah, right? That's pretty crazy.
It's next level. It's next level, right? And you can actively change that. Sometimes when you apply a texture, I will tell you this, when you apply texture, the UV mapping, depending on how complex your sub-D surface is, the UV mapping isn't always going to be perfect, right? So if you look at this icon up here, you can right now it's on from object UV. Sometimes that is the route that you're going to have to take, but other times if you select spherical or cylindrical or cubic, depending on the nature of that object, these might work out better if there is certain abrasions in that texture, right? I'm trying to find an abrasion on what I have here. It doesn't look, I'm actually getting lucky right now. It doesn't look like there are any abrasions, but sometimes you'll see, for instance, like if you look at this, there'll be like a jagged line that comes through it, and you'll have to change how you UV unwrap it to get it right.
Yeah, Andreas is asking, do you have to do any UV unwrapping, or is it all automatic? And I think you touched on that a bit with the box project.
Yeah,
but
it's all automatic. Yeah. It's all automatic at this point. So yeah, and then I'm not going to use the same exact carbon fiber material when I want to apply it to this, right? So I'm just going to grab a new one and apply it to that, and then scale that separately, right? Like you never want to do that, because if you were to grab the same carbon fiber, if you wanted to make a change on this one, because it's collapsed by material, all of them will change once you select it. So like now I can keep these independent from one another.
So maybe it is smart when you have different pieces like that, if you think you might need that level of control later, it's not bad to just separate it out.
Yep. And I did now just realize a mistake. So back to what I was saying earlier about making sure all your normals are the right way. You see here, I actually had a surface that spanned down and touched the carbon, right? In certain angles, you'll see that the B side is actually facing out, or you see how it's like that piece is disappearing here?
Yeah.
Right? And then when I turn, it disappears, right? So the B
Okay, yeah.
side's facing out. There's no way to flip it inside Twinmotion, right? So if I like got really far, it's always a good practice to like bring your stuff into Twinmotion, analyze it. If you missed anything, then go back right into Gravity Sketch and flip it, right? Hope somebody from Twinmotion's watching because that's definitely something we need. Uh, but yeah, let's just do without it for now. It's not a deal breaker for me.
Anybody from the Twinmotion team watching, raise your hand.
Yeah, right.
Glad to have you here if you're watching.
So yeah, they also have neons in here, which is really cool. So instant lighting, you can change that lighting color. We could do more of that blue that we had before, but you know, if you want to be fun with it, you could do like a strobing, like color change.
That's cool.
This is a police vehicle. You know, you can. It's cool because the light actually like cascades onto the other surfaces, which is really
Yeah.
nice. Epilepsy warning. You know, here you go, but we'll keep it solid for now. Yeah.
That just right there is pretty amazing because I just know from my own experience that that type of thing, you know, especially with the animated lights, I mean that would take some setup in order to even get it to work. Whereas you just, you know, drag and drop, which is pretty cool.
Right. You're exactly right. I'm gonna go into plastic here and choose a glossy plastic for the shut lines. They're not technically real shut lines, but just make them black so they read correctly. And then I'm gonna go into the glass. So you see here, there's so many different things that you could do with the glass, but I'm gonna go into the dark tinted glass. Oh, the interior actually came through. That's awesome. Lucky me. All right.
That looks good. That looks great.
I'm going to tint this down a lot just because I wasn't planning on the interior, but you'll notice that the pillars, yeah, let's go into here. I think the interior is missing some parts, but for whatever reason it did. Maybe I did have that layer on and didn't know it or didn't realize it. But for the interior, you can go into like fabrics here, and they have like a fabric, like a velvet fabric, and I'm just gonna make this. If anybody from Twinmotion there, would be nice to get an Alcantara. Just saying. And you'll notice, see, like the UV is so weird on this, right? Like you can see that there's a lot of splintering. If you change this to cubic, you might get a different result. See, like now that splintering's gone, and I can reapply this. Obviously, I'm going to scale that down. Maybe make it a little bit darker.
Ollie, I've got a question for you on the UVs. So
Yeah.
obviously you've got the box projection, which will, yeah, just kind of a basic box projection of the material texture on the object. If you actually did do proper UVs, say you did actual UVs in Blender or whatever your tool is, and you actually had seams and you really did custom unwrap your UVs in another program, would those come in here and you'd be able to utilize those in Twinmotion?
I don't know for sure, but I would assume so if you had it from Object UV.
Right? Okay, so there you go. Okay.
You had all your ducks in a row and you unwrapped it properly and you had the seams in the right place. I would hope that from Object would work.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they put these so you can kind of self-correct. But then again, it's not always perfect even when you self-correct. So you just got to kind of pick your battles in here and like really, I mean, what are you actually showing off in here? Like if it's something crucial that you need to really fix, like I would go back in and try to fix those UVs. But most of the time, these are really a really good way to kind of save time because they allow you to mess with it a little bit.
Gotcha.
Right, so let's remember how I said that everything was going to be glass here, which is good. So if I now wanted to select this individual piece here, it looks like I can come in and take out all of the glass. See how all the glass married now? So that's because I had everything the same material, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that out, and then I'm going to go to the library and then go into the neons here, and I'm going to turn those a really lush red. And then I'm going to select this again, and then bring it, encapsulate it back. Not too much. Yeah. Yeah. This is why you need to do this.
Is there a way you can select it without having to move it? Like maybe you select it in the object tree.
Yeah. I could have selected it in the object tree. That's 100% right. Yeah.
Okay.
I do things the hard way sometimes.
No worries. I was just wondering it for myself.
But yeah, you can come in here and turn things on and off. Also, this is a common thing as well. Let's say you're in Twinmotion and you find yourself like something like this. You find yourself super far away from your asset and you're like, oh crap, what do I do? How do I get back there, right? You actually scroll up to your tree and you go to your starting file and you just hit the key F. It will immediately bring you back to whatever you selected. So
nice.
It's an interesting way how they set the movement speed. So you see here, like I'm going really quick, and that's because if you actually hit this eye icon and go to this drop down to the speed menu, you have the keyboard shortcuts 1 through 6. 1 being like inspect speed, which would be like so slow that you can barely tell that it's moving, all the way to flying a plane speed. So it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. I always stay in between 4 to 6. 6 if I'm navigating a really big screen, but 4 if I'm just trying to navigate quickly around a car, right? So without further delay, I'm going to keep dressing this thing up, but I'm happy to answer any questions that relate to what I've gone over so far.
Yeah, there was a question about how much Twinmotion costs. I mean, I answered that it's free.
It is free.
Okay, I was just going to double check on that. And
yeah, you can even see here I'm actually working on an outdated version, and I haven't even purchased it myself, right? Just because it's free, it's online, and I only use it for personal projects, right?
I think it's like 1 million businesses doing 1 million or more.
Okay, go back to metal.
I think we had a network pause there.
Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good now. You can hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, cool. It just paused on my set. It just paused for a minute.
So here's that example, and really quick, let me turn the sun. You see this abrasion here? This is what we want to avoid, right? And I had it interesting. So yeah, sometimes there's these abrasions, but you should be able to select. Let's see what happens if I do cylindrical. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, it got a lot worse. So you definitely don't want to do a cylindrical. Let's try cubic again. No change. Okay, from object. That's a bummer. No change. So see how sometimes it can gridlock you. Yeah, look, it happened. Oh, accidentally turned the whole body carbon. How did that happen? Sorry, let me go back here. Okay. So if you get stuck in this situation, this is good because this happens to me all the time, actually. So I'm going to go back to materials, and you see this icon here. It says replace material. You can hit apply object, and now I can bring that paint back, right?
Oh, nice.
So don't fret if you accidentally select something and you've gotten too far. You can go to apply to object, and then we can try this again, right? So let's go into the library. Let's go back into metal, and let's go to carbon. Okay. Oh, it looks like it fixed this time. Well, something was happening, but yeah, this time
it might be somehow those were connected, and that was making it go weird.
Yeah, maybe.
That's weird.
That's a good point. We got the bumper beam here. Let's just make that carbon 2. And then you see this purple surface, that was actually supposed to be a grill mesh, and they have grids here. Do they have anything like super automotive? No, not really. Unfortunately, I hope they do add something automotive, but like you could come in here and add that. Might not want to do that just because you're gonna see through the car, but I'm gonna go into plastic. I can go to glossy plastic, and then I can come here, turn this all the way down, and then turn the roughness pretty kind of up. And I'll also apply that to this little sidewall, right? So you'll see the carbon. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors for the.
Because it's just visual, like you said before. Like it's just to sell an idea.
Like this is to make renderings, right? So let's do this too. Is that carbon here? We're almost there, right? For the wheels, let's do metal. Let's do brass here, and let's make it like an anodized red. Anodized red.
Juan T is asking, can we animate the wheels and create a quick video?
I know. And yeah, you can absolutely do that. The strategy would be going back into Gravity Sketch, you would have to make the front wheels a group, and you would do that with color. So the front tires would be a color and the rear tires would be a separate color. The same thing goes for the wheels, anything related to the design of the wheel. And then you would be able to apply, and I could show that here, you would be able to apply a animator, and you have rotators and translators, and essentially you'd be able to put that rotator dead center, and then you'd be able to choose the speed in which that rolls, right? So that is a little bit more of a complex operation, and maybe that's something we can present following this session here. But for today, I'm just giving a high-level overview of how I set up Gravity Sketch.
Yeah, that's perfect. We don't have to dive too deep into it, but I think it's good to call out, like, that's an option that you have.
Yeah. Let's see. I did have that slightly worn brass, actually. I don't know where that went. It got away from me, but it's okay. We can make this white as well. Kind of looks cool. Sweet. So we're almost there. We're at the end of the dressing it up. I'm not going to go into the interior. We'll just leave it as indication right now. I'll make the windshield wiper black too. And then we're looking at a pretty well done and dressed up. Oh, I forgot the exhaust tips. Let's do that too. Exhaust tips have to happen, right? Okay. Boom. Let's make those gold. That actually kind of looks sweet. Makes me want to make the wheels gold because they would match. See what that looks like really quick. Yeah, let's do that. That looks badass.
I have a question, Ollie. How would you do tread, like tire tread? Would you have to be a little bit more specific with your UVs on that?
So yeah, you actually have an option here. Where is it? Normals, right? So if you go into normals, you can normal map. If you had a map of it, you could put it on there.
Oh, okay.
And you can raise that up. I think you can also, where is this? Yeah, you can add a texture here. So if you had the texture of the tread, you can apply it here. So there is a good amount of control. I just don't have that for.
No worries.
I mean, for this vehicle, it could be slicks, but yeah, if you wanted to do tread like that, you can.
Got it.
It looks like I messed up something here. Definitely don't want that to be messed up. Yeah, I think it's the glass when I moved it because I did it improperly. There we go. Almost. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All right, so what do you do from here? Now the car is dressed up. It's looking good. It's looking pretty cool. How do you make this thing into a scene now, right? So we're going to go back to this ambience tab that I was talking about, right? So here you can change the time of day, right? So you're basically like moving the sun, right? And it's in the middle, it's midday. If it's at the left, it's morning. It's at the right, it's night, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So it has a pretty good range. You just have to find like the lighting that you want. Obviously, golden hour is always nice for vehicles. And then you can change the offset. If you want to light a specific side of the vehicle, you could do that as well. And then what I like to do to make it feel realistic, you have this weather slider. This is actually really powerful because if you slide this ever so slightly, you'll notice that there's a little wetness appears on the ground,
Hmm.
right? You could play with that. I mean, obviously, you can make it full rain if you want to. To me, it's distracting to the vehicle. But what I'll do is I'll just make it ever so slightly damp. So there's some kind of texture on the ground. And you're seeing a little bit of the, the bounce light reflection here. Mess with it just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's where I like to keep it. And then let's get into crafting the scene, right? So go back to your library. We're gonna get out of the materials for now. Let's go into the Sketchfab library. So you can see here that they have an assortment of different items that you'll find in the world, and this is going to make things really easy. The thing is, you have to make sure that your Epic Games account is linked to this. It's pretty easy to set up, but once you do, you can click like architecture here. One of the classic ones that I use for demos here is this Chicago building. You can bring this in, just drag and drop, and you'll notice that like some of these are not scaled properly, but don't fret because you can come up here and you can just scale it down to what it needs to be. Let me bring this up forward, and it's starting to feel somewhat proper to the scale. You kind of have to guesstimate it here, right? I'll move this like it's parked in front. That maybe feels a little bit.
Yeah, it needs to be a little bigger, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I scoot it back a little bit. You don't want any curb rash here. That feeling right? It feels kind of right.
I'm just looking at the doors. Like
yeah, I'm looking at the doors too. I think what we could do too is add in a character. Let's put in
that's a good idea.
Right. So yeah, is that human? No, that thing is too small still. Right. So let's scale this guy up a little bit more to about there. That feels a little bit more proper. And this back a little bit. Yeah, so the cool thing is they have a lot of animated assets that are inside Twinmotion, especially the people. So like this guy's, it's pretty cool. You can change like the cloth color, right? You can put on a different fit. You can have him like speaking, idle, sitting, lying down, doing a little shopping, feeding some birds. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that they do that are all preset. And if you can imagine doing this in another program, it could be pretty cumbersome. Also looks like the vehicle might be, I mean, the vehicle is small, right? But I'm not going to spend too much time on that right now. Next thing is, okay, let's put some vegetation in it. Let's get some trees, right? So cool thing is a lot of the trees here have like a scale reference. You'll see like there's like a little person sitting next to that tree. So you could just have to find one that would be in front of a store or something like that. Not anything too like this one seems like it's okay. If you spent the time to find like a pot or like some kind of area that would be on a sidewalk, how they have those little cutouts with the dirt. You can add that, but just for the demonstration purposes, you can put some trees in here. And what I just did to duplicate that, I held shift. Right, so I'll hold shift and I'll put some trees here and just drag it over. And the cool thing is you'll notice that you can change the age of the tree too. So maybe one of these is, or maybe they're all a little bit older, right? It looks like they split off because they pollinate maybe. You can also change the season, which is cool. I guess it's not updating. Maybe it doesn't update, but the cool thing is, like, if you notice, there's physics attached to this. That's super cool. You don't really have to worry about animating these, like they come pre-animated. So this is really powerful. So I put some trees there, And then let's start populating the scene. They got vehicles in here. So this car's parked. Let's put some other parked cars next to it or behind it. Not too close because got to respect the space a little bit.
Your car's making the other cars look bad.
Yeah, that's automotive design there. Not too because we're gonna do some camera angles on this thing. I don't want them too close, but I definitely want them in the vicinity here. And like they don't all have to be perfectly straight and in line because people are also not the best of drivers. So sometimes you have one that's pitched in a little bit. Maybe they're a jerk and they don't let them back up. So okay, you can have this there, and now okay, it's starting to look real. Like okay, how about we add some life into this scene, right? So you can come into characters. They have animals. All of these are animated. I think the C Squad might do well here. So take the C Squad and bring them up.
That's so funny they call it that. C Squad.
The C Squad. Yeah, I mean they got random names like Salmon and Joe, Death Squad for crows. Uh, you know, Devil, Felix. Yeah, Flying
That's
Flutter.
funny.
Hilarious. I know. I think it's a cool thing. I don't know. It just adds a little bit of life, especially if you're doing an animation. You'll see like the cast shadows of like
Yeah.
the birds hitting the buildings. So it's like those small things that start making it feel real. In terms of people, like you can have some people standing on their own, right? Like let's say, this guy's talking to this guy over here. They're just having a quick chat. And another really powerful element to this is if you go to populate, you'll see that there's foliage, paths, and urban. We're going to just spend time on paths today. And you're going to see character paths, bicycle paths, vehicle paths, and custom paths, right? So to Juan's question earlier, if you spin the wheels, like the next follow-up question would be, okay, like how do I make it move, right? So you would use custom paths for that, but we can save that for another session.
Mm-hmm.
So for vehicle paths, I can now, with my left mouse button, draw path here, like so, and then right click to disengage. And this is going to give some traffic in your scene. So all I'm worried about is like what's going to be in frame. You don't have to build an entire world when you're in Twinmotion. You can absolutely do that. But if you're just trying to showcase this car, what's going to be in the immediate backdrop? Like that's what's important, right? So with this custom path here, obviously they're going a little quick. Maybe you want to slow it down just a little bit and change the density. Maybe there's too many cars coming down, depending on what your shot calls for, right? You can also change like this lane count. You can make this multiple lanes. You'll see that sometimes there's physics involved. So like that car is going to start driving over other cars, or it's going to hit my car. Maybe it's going to do something. Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah. Totally.
That's funny.
Disrespect my car like that. Yeah. So yeah, you could add that. Let's do populate. Let's do character path now, right? Actually, before we do that, I also want to draw your attention to this eye icon again. There's this house here, which basically showcases the top view. And for this, it might be a little bit more beneficial. You can see those people, everything stays animated, right? I'm going to actually go into the character path. I'm going to have them walk around the corner here. Right? And then I can come back here, go back into perspective mode, and now we got people turning the corner, walking around. I can also, again, change the density. This is really cool because you could change like the type of clothing they all have. So if you're in a more metropolitan area and you're in like a financial district, you can have everybody have office clothing. If they're on a vacation or in travel mode, they have bags with them. They have street clothing. This one's actually going to be a little bit more relevant to this scene. They also have beach people, and then randomly they have traditional Middle Eastern people. So like if you're making a scene in like Dubai or something like that, you could do that. You can change
I wonder if that might be because there's a lot of like
the.
architectural projects like for Middle Eastern, like yeah, like that's really
That was my
interesting.
hunch. That was my hunch. That was absolutely my hunch as well.
That's cool.
Another important element here is the in the tools tab you have reflection probes. This is super important. So especially if you already made a bunch of scenes here or a bunch of things in the scene, you want to go to reflection probes. I use sphere, and you'll see what this does immediately, right? So I'm going to drop this sphere and I'm going to make it bigger, right? And you'll notice that the bigger I make it, anything that's intersecting this sphere is going to automatically reflect onto the vehicle, right? So just to give you a before and after, this is before what it looked like. Look at how much more life is in the reflections of that vehicle once you
Yeah.
put that reflection probe in. So
Wow.
what's important to note, sorry, Jaren, what's important to note is that anything you change in the scene, you're going to have to come back here and hit update.
Mm. Wow.
So it's starting to make it look really good, right? So we're almost ready for, and you can go on and on with this too. Like this scene, you could put here. Let's get a little bit more into the scene here. Sorry, I'm gonna go to characters. Let's put a dog. Oh, maybe there's a dog here. Put a little dog. Maybe he's like a shop dog or something like that. You know, so yeah, you get a dog in there. Um, it's looking pretty cool, and now you can start picking out your angles, right? So you obviously you have this car running in here. You want this to be low angle, right? You can go back to the ambience tab, go to camera, and you can go to depth of field. You hit enable. Don't worry, you can pick focus. Pick that focus there. It'll kind of blur out everything else. The car that passes in front might be a little bit blurred too, but you can change the distance on this thing, right? So let's do that. You can change the aperture, right, just to make it look a little bit dreamy. And then you can come back here to environment. If you don't like the time of day, like you can auto update that. Oh, that looks good right there with the little bling blings
Golden
on
hour.
there. Golden hour, yeah. Right. So what do you do from here, right? Is this going to be a rendering? Is this going to be an animation? We could do both, right? So down here next to the populate tab. So far we covered import, materials, populate. Let's go into media. So as soon as you click media, you'll see here that you have image, you have video, panorama, and you can do panorama set. Today we're just going to focus on these two. Let's do the image first. You're going to click image, and you'll see that the scene kind of got cropped, and now you'll notice this quit media mode button too. So anything you change while you're in media mode is not going to reflect the initial scene that you created. So I can come in here and completely change the time of day, right? Like I can make this nighttime, right? Obviously the reflection probe has to be updated and all that, but as soon as I quit media mode, it's going back, right? But it stayed the same here. So you just
Mm.
want to be mindful that it's going to, if you change it in media mode, it's not going to reflect the main scene. So I'm actually going to delete this and make the original image. For the vehicle path, I'll turn that off for now just because we don't want a car coming into our frame. And see this little refresh icon? Every time you press that, so if I move here and I hit refresh, it's going to refresh that viewpoint, right?
Mm.
So come in here, do that, and there you go. That's your first image, right? You'll also come in here and you can see 2K, full HD, 4K, 8K. That's crazy. I don't know if you need it, but you can do 4K. And then under FX, this is really cool too, because they have these filters here. There's a huge one. One of my favorite is the Matrix. Like, I don't know why they have
That's
it, but
awesome.
it's awesome because they nod to the movie. I love the Matrix. But they also have, a bunch of different ones, here, different times of day. They have Nordic. Nordic is one of my favorite because it like really saturates the scene. There's a lot of sky tones in there. And then you also have filter. So filter is really cool too, depending on what you want to use it for. There's like hidden line,
That's cool.
hatching, half tone. You can get crazy with it. Blueprint.
Wow.
One that I like to use a lot is line light, because it ever so slightly, like this is too much, line regular is too much, but line light gives everything like this very subtle, like traced line, and it makes it feel a little cartoony, which could be good. You don't always have to use that, but sometimes it calls for it. I'll go into the camera here, and I'll make this feel a little bit more auto. Also, the sun is a little distracting, so maybe I'm gonna move this. Let's see where we're at now. Yeah, something like that, where it's not too blown out. Yeah, and there's your first. That would be your first image. So if you
Wow.
wanted to export this, right, you could, or you can go on to your next image, right? And let's say we want to get a rear view of this thing, right? And like as you navigate, it's still responding to initial camera that you set, so the focal length. So if you go close, it'll get sharper. If you obviously go far away, it's gonna get blurry. If you need to reset that, you can do this. So pick focus and make sure you refresh, and there's your rear view. Depending on what other kind of views you want, if you want a little bit more of like a tucked away, something like this, where it shows some of the trees in the background. Make another image here, right? So that's how
That's
you can
so
make a
cool.
lot of images quick, right?
Yeah.
And when you go to the export, you can select all three, and then boom, you're off, right? And it would show up on your desktop, right? Let's get into video, right? So we want to make. Let's turn on this vehicle path again. Don't worry, this orange will not show up. So just to have some kind of, maybe that's a little too slow, but let's click this first frame, right? You're keyframing at this point. So if this is your starting point, right, you can then rotate here like this, maybe zoom out ever so slightly, add that new frame, and then you're going to have to come back in here to autofocus that. So this is what you would see once you hit play.
Wow. That took you like not even a minute.
No, not even a minute, and it renders even faster, right? So for those of you wondering, is there a ray trace? This is real time, but there is a ray trace. So if I click this, it will ray trace the image, and it will be higher quality for sure. Do you absolutely need it? Not every time, but if you want the highest, fidelity possible, for sure use it. But for the most part, I don't use it. All my Instagram posts, for the most part, are all just in normal real time. I think the quality is enough to get the point across, but you're able to do that if you wish. Any
Ollie,
questions?
this
Yeah.
is great. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking us through the process all the way to this really impressive result. I don't see any questions right now, but we're a bit over time. But if anybody does have any questions, we're happy to answer a few. If not, we can close it. But if you missed
Yeah.
any of this, definitely go back and watch it. This is going to be available as soon as our live stream is over. You can just go back and watch it from the very beginning if you missed anything. If there's something you wanted to, go over again in terms of how to export. And if anybody new is joining, basically this has just been a demo of how to bring something out of Gravity Sketch into Twinmotion and apply materials, set up a scene like Ollie's done here. So, yeah, thanks so much for your time, Ollie.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure, and I hope that the session was useful for you guys. I can't wait to see you guys utilize Gravity Sketch and Twinmotion together. Tag Gravity Sketch if you can. And we're looking forward to seeing some hot stuff coming out of you guys.
Yeah, and I want to remind everybody right now we've got this past month we've had a challenge called "Show Us Your Favorite Gravity Sketch Software Pairing." We're actually extending that for this next month because we have a new process for submitting for monthly challenges. So if you want to show off your favorite Gravity Sketch software pairing, which means other programs or tools that you use alongside Gravity Sketch, and you want to show off your workflow, submit your process, your final result of working with that program or tool, whatever. You can find that through our Instagram, our Twitter, as well as on our Discord. We have a link for challenges. You submit through a type form and then send it in that way. And we'd love to pick a winner from it and highlight you in our community. So that's just a little blurb I want to put out that we've got running for another month. So yeah, if there's no more questions, well, there's one. What are the specs of the PC you're using?
Ooh, good question. I'll have to get back to you on that one. It is a Razer laptop. I'm sure it's a gaming PC, so I know it has some heft to it, but I don't know the exact specs, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think it's. I could be wrong in this. I would encourage all of you to definitely go check out the Twinmotion website, probably for um, official specs. But I would imagine you would need a decent graphics card probably to run Twinmotion. Um, I'm not sure of the limitations, so definitely go check out Twinmotion's website. I won't be the truth teller here for that, but. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for your time and sticking with us if you stuck with us the whole time. And thank you, Ali, again. Really appreciate your full length demo here. It's been really eye opening for me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And I want to say one more thing too. If you got any ideas of what you'd want to see for live sketches like this, live demos, just let us know. Leave us a comment on the video. Let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll try and make it happen. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.